Everybody, I hope you are doing well. For those of you who saw me log in 15 minutes early, clearly I'm having trouble keeping track of what time it is. I am starting the meeting just a little bit early, so it's easy for folks to join. And of course, this is set up so that y'all are not able to speak directly, but you of course are able to comment, especially definitely on Facebook. I believe that you can send in some comments on Zoom. So if you have any questions as we start to get sort of situated, by all means, send them through. Today, no props are required. Do feel free to grab something that might be comfortable for you to sit on. If you want extra padding for your knees, you might want to go ahead and just grab something like a towel, whatever is going to make you most comfortable as we get started. I am smarter than my cell phones, I swear. Awesome. I also shared this past Sunday on the Hot Yoga Capitol Hill Facebook page. I shared a link to a playlist that I made. So by all means, do please feel free to check that out real quick if you are interested in having some music play during our class. We are not allowed to play music on live like this on the Facebook profile in particular. It will get shut down immediately due to copyright violations. But this is a great opportunity to just remind ourselves that yoga is not about the music. It's not about the playlists. Those are, of course, great to have, and by all means can really help us focus in on our practice and ourselves and not get too caught up in what's going around us. But really the idea, right, is that you are being mindful, that you are practicing that mindfulness, that you're constructing a space for yourself, sort of literally and figuratively to practice. So remember that your breath is a beautiful sound to listen to, and if you don't have music, by all means, really focus in on your ujjayi. Awesome, great to see we've got some folks coming in on Instagram. Just so you guys know, this is an intermediate level class. That means I'm going to take for granted that you are familiar with things like standard yoga postures, warrior 1, warrior 2, crescent lunge. I'm going to take for granted that you know chaturanga vinyasas. That means we can kind of pick up the pace a little bit, just sort of focus more on that breath to movement flow. I'll give you guys some chances to make your lives, or to take postures up a notch, to make your lives more difficult is what I was going to say, but that's not what I meant. This class is free for you guys, but if you are not already a member and you are able to donate, I will share a link to that with this video on Facebook after the class. Please do consider donating if you can. Laura, our fearless leader, is very generously paying all of us to do these classes live. Most teachers, though, online do not have that luxury. And of course, this studio is not getting income otherwise, so the more we can do to preemptively keep everything running for all of us, the better. The last thing I just want to tell you guys is be really honest to your bodies and to yourself. So by that I mean, this is an intermediate class in name, but that doesn't mean that beginners aren't welcome. It doesn't mean that if you are newer to yoga, you are not so welcome to join this practice. It just means that, again, I'm going to take some knowledge for granted. So do please be really mindful with your movements. Please be really honest to yourself with your range of motion. Don't try to force any range of motion. If you get tired, take a break. Maybe not like sit back with some bowl of popcorn and like watch, but I mean, if that's where you're at today, okay. So all of that is to say, be honest to where you are today. Give yourself rest if you need it. Honor your body and where it is and its strength and its mobility and its level of energy. And we'll try to have some fun. Yeah? So again, if you just joined us, you might want like a towel to sit on or pad your knees later, but no props are required. If you have blocks or you want something that you can put your hands on moving forward and backward on your mat, just so you have the floor a bit closer to you, grab it. And we will get started today as you are ready in child's pose. So, as you come into your child's pose, couple of options here. Sorry for the crotch shot, guys. Some options in terms of what you want that child's pose to look like. If you really want some hip opening, I recommend bringing your knees as wide as your mat is wide, and then just walking yourself forward till your forearms, your forehead touch the mat. For those of you who have a really low back discomfort, you are super welcome to bring your knees together to touch and just give yourself some better support. This is a great place if your knees are sensitive to grab a blanket and put it underneath your knees, or a towel and put it underneath your knees just so you have some extra padding. So a whole lot of options here. Just find the place that's most comfortable for you. And if you are one of my students who is currently expecting, if you would prefer to start in a comfortable seat, by all means do so. So as you get situated, I'm going to encourage you to just straight away find your ujjayi, or victorious breath. So those very deep, intentional inhales and exhales in and out through your nose. And as you do that, just notice that the first thing that probably happens is you feel like your rib cage is constricted. So try to let your belly, your rib cage relax. And start practicing that 3-part breath. So inhaling through your belly, filling up through your rib cage, filling up your throat. And then exhaling, letting your rib cage and your throat collapse, letting your belly pull in. So each inhale fills you and helps you expand towards the mat below you. Each exhale totally empties you out. And just continue to focus on that breath. And as you do so, I'd like to encourage you today just to find a place where you feel, if not at ease, you feel that you have sort of an acceptance that there are things beyond your control right now, but this right now, this space is for you. This is something that you have control over in terms of how you choose to practice today, and that you gave yourself this time to practice today. So this flow is really going to be sort of about getting us out of our heads. For those of us who have the privilege to work remotely, my other job is a desk job. I have definitely been feeling the discomfort of sort of being stationary in front of a laptop, a lot of that head leaning forward. So we're going to try to really focus today on just stretching those areas that we have tensed. So continuing here for just another moment in your current shape to focus on that ujjayi. And we'll start with just a few big breaths together. So open your mouth and just exhale every bit of air out of your lungs. And take a big inhale through your nose, let your belly, your rib cage expand. And then sigh it out through your mouth. We'll do that again. Big deep inhale. Big exhale. Last one. Out your mouth. And then start to add in some motions here. You can kind of twist out wrists. You can wiggle fingers. You might shimmy your hips side to sides on your heels if that feels good. You're welcome to kind of roll out through your shoulders. And just on the next breath or so, find your way into a tabletop shape. And as you find that tabletop shape, just take that moment and kind of notice what's going on with your spine. Notice if you're arching, if you're overcorrecting. Just find that neutrality here. And we'll actually start with some wrist stretches and our cat-cow tilt. So I'll turn here. You'll see I brought 2 mats out so I can face you guys from time to time. So we're going to take our right hand and bring the back of the hand to the mat so the palm faces the ceiling, and then press the back of the hand into the floor. And you'll notice I have done so all the way to my wrist. Now, if this for you feels like a lot of pressure, put a slight bend in your wrist and bring your knees closer to your fingertips. Now, for those of you where that feels really good, bring your left hand to meet the right, back of the left hand to the mat, palm faces up. If that's too much, just do one hand at a time and we'll switch. And then from here, just take a big inhale to your cow pose. Let your belly drop, your head rock back. Exhale to your cat, really pressing the floor away, arching through your spine. Inhaling, heart forward. Exhaling to round. Inhale. Exhale. If you're only doing one hand, this is a time where you will switch and do the left, and 3 more breaths at your own pace. Last breath. And if I'm a little ahead of you or behind you, just go ahead and finish up at your own pace. If that for you felt like a lot, just take a minute, sit your hips on your heels, make some fists, thumbs excluded, and twist it out. And we'll do one more wrist stretch here and then we'll move on. So this time you're going to take your right hand, pivot your fingertips to the side of the room. That's your option 1. If that feels okay, option 2, you're going to bring your fingertips all the way back to face your knee. The whole heel of your hand needs to stay on the mat. So notice here if the heel of your hand is popping up. If you can't quite get it all the way down, stay with your fingers facing to the side instead. And then just like before, if that feels like a lot, stay here. You can bring your knees closer to your wrists so that you have better stability. If that feels okay, left hand can meet it again, either facing out or back. If you're facing out on one hand, I recommend doing it that way with both. And just take a moment and look at your hands. We tend to make ourselves very narrow, so just make sure you're keeping the hands under your shoulders. Slight give here in your elbows. And then same thing here, starting with just those cat-cow tilts. Big inhale. Big exhale. Third breath. And again, if you're doing one hand, this is where you'll switch. Everybody 3 breaths at your pace. Last breath. And as you come to stillness, hands back the regular way underneath your shoulders. Again, if you want to take a moment and twist that out, make sure your thumbs are excluded from your fists. Totally an option, feel free to do so. We'll do one more exercise here before we go ahead and find our down dog. So plant down firmly through your left hand. On an inhale, reach your right fingertips up to the ceiling. On your exhale, wave your right arm underneath your left, bringing your right shoulder, your right cheek down to the mat. I'll turn around here so y'all can see me. Now you've got some options. Keeping the left hand in front of your face is one. You can always walk the left fingertips forward. That might feel nice. You can also half bind, taking that left arm, reaching behind the low back. And I'll actually turn around one more time. If you choose to do so, you can flip that palm to face the wall behind you. You might have very long arms, so it's easy for me to get my hand in my thigh. If you're back here, that's totally fine. Just make sure you're rolling that shoulder back, not collapsing, just to help with that opening. You have one more option here if you are so inclined. You are welcome to stretch that left leg out long, parallel to your right arm. That can get you a nice little adductor stretch here. You might feel it a little bit in your hamstring and your glute. If it feels good, you can keep your balance. Wherever the left hand in is fine again. You're welcome to lift that leg up. This will just put more pressure on your right shoulder, but take your time, go slow. Most likely scenario, the first time you try it, you will fall. We'll take just one more big breath here. Taking that left hand, bringing it back in front of your face. On your inhale, stretch that right arm up. Then exhale, right hand meets your left. We'll switch sides. Big inhale, stretch the left arm up. Exhale, weave that left arm underneath the right, bringing that left shoulder, left cheek to the mat. Now, I didn't say this the first time, but if you're not quite reaching the floor, you find that your head is hovering, just walk yourself further forward so that it's a little bit more accessible. You're also welcome to grab that towel if you grabbed it and put it underneath you for some more padding, just so you have that space. Same thing, right hand can stay here, it can walk forward, you can half bind. Option, if you want it, to stretch that right leg out long, parallel to the left arm. Option, if you want it, to maybe lift that leg up. I'm going to back out a little, that's more than I need right now. Nice big breaths, don't hold your breath just because we're in this weird shape. 2 more. Last breath. Returning that right hand in front of your face. Inhale, stretch that left arm up. And exhale, release the left hand down to meet your right, coming back into your tabletop. From here, planting firmly through your palms, just check in that your hands are shoulders distant. Spread those fingers wide. I'm going to scooch forward just a little bit so I can step my feet back to a plank pose and still be in the screen. Excellent. Now you guys are always welcome. Keep in mind, feel free to always do this on your knees. Just make sure you're not concaving, right? You're still pulling in that low belly. You're pulling that low belly in so much so that it feels like you're lifting your belly button up. So you're also engaging your upper abdominals. You're not forgetting about the entirety of your abdominal wall. Really actively pressing through the balls of your feet. Maybe here imagining that you've got a block between your thighs. So really active in this shape. You notice that I'm moving around here to show you that I'm not losing that integrity of my spine. Let's just take 2 more big breaths. Last one. And then from here, lift your hips up and back. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Try to keep the hands and feet about the same distance apart they just were, but if you want to shorten your stance a smidge, do feel free. I'm going to walk myself forward so you guys can see me. Great. If you want to bend the knees a little, feel free. And just start with any free motions. You can pedal, you can wiggle, feel free to shake the head. Just make sure your feet are hips distance as you look at them. If you've got a lot of weight in your shoulders, bend your knees, lift your booty a little higher, press the chest back, give your shoulders a break. Just take another big round of breath here. And on your next inhale, look to your hands. Exhale, step your feet forward to a forward fold, and we'll come straight into a ragdoll. So feet hips distance as always. You can measure that with your 2 fists. Bend your knees, grab opposite elbow, opposite hand if that's comfortable. Maybe the hands hang heavy. Maybe fingers interlace at the nape of your neck. You can always interlace fingers at your tailbone, add in that shoulder stretch if you want it. Do feel free to pedal out the feet. You might shake the head, yes and no. Just any motions here that feel good, guys. Do what feels right for your back. For those of you who've been sitting at a computer, the more you bend the knees and roll the weight into your toes, the more your low back will get some relief. 2 more big breaths. And gently releasing fingertips to the floor. You can keep the feet where they are or bring them to touch, up to you. Inhale, find your flat back, half lift, roll those shoulders back, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, slow roll up to rise, stack one vertebra on top of the other. And exhale, find your Tadasana, your mountain pose. Now always check in with your spine. Are you bending, really pulling into that low belly through your pelvic floor without overcorrecting, right? We're not tucking so far under, you're trying to flatten your back. Find that buoyancy through the side body, like your obliques are helping you lengthen. And then with those arms by your sides, close your eyes. If that makes you feel dizzy, gentle gaze at the floor. And just take a big inhale through your nose. Exhale at your mouth. Inhale through the nose. Are you holding onto something you can let go of? Exhale, let it release. I'm going to do a slightly different Surya Namaskar A, Sun Salutation A, so listen carefully. On your inhale, circle the arms up. You'll notice I can't extend my arms, there's a ceiling, so I'm going to cactus. On your exhale, cactus your arms, tuck the pelvis under, gentle back bend, drop the head back. Inhale, back to your mountain. Exhale, hands through heart center, fold forward, bring your fingertips down to the mat. Inhale to your flat back, half lift. Exhale, fold forward, plant your hands, step back to your plank. Wiggle, or rather rotate those inner elbows forward, big inhale. Exhale from knees or toes, chaturanga, look forward, bend those elbows at 90. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra pose. Feel free to lower down to your hips. If you're in up dog, just make sure your thighs are lifted, your knees are lifted, you're just on the tops of the feet. Exhale to curl your toes, lift your hips. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Take a big round of breath. Inhale, look forward, don't shift forward. Keep your torso where it is, just bend the knees. Now step the feet forward to meet your hands or hop. Forward fold. Inhale to your flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, reverse swan dive to stand. Exhale, cactus your arms, gentle back bend. Inhale, mountain pose. Exhale, hands through heart center, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold forward, plant your hands, step back plank. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, lower halfway. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, curl your toes, lift your hips. Remember that chaturanga vinyasas are always optional, guys. Take a big round of breath. We'll do one more round, breath to movement. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step or hop, forward fold. Inhale, flat back, half lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reverse swan dive to stand. Exhale, cactus your arms, baby back bend. Inhale, mountain. Exhale, fold through heart center. Inhale, flat back, half lift. Exhale, fold, plant your hands, step or hop back to your plank. Remember, if you're hopping back, you're gonna land in chaturanga with your elbows bent. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, curl those toes, lift your hips, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Downward facing dog, coming into our Surya Namaskara B, or sun salutation B. Inhale, bend the knees, look forward. Options this time, guys. You have your option to just step to a forward fold. You also have the option, if you can pike or float, to go ahead and do so. Third option is to take some little handstand hops if you are interested. What you'll do is you'll spread your fingers wide. You'll wrap your inner elbows towards the front of the mat. And then from here, you'll bend the knees looking forward. Try to bring your knees to your chest 3 times. After that third hop, you'll just step your feet forward to your forward fold. Those are totally optional, guys. Take another round of breath here if you're giving it a shot. Everybody to the top of the mat, fold forward, wiggle your feet together. Inhale, flat back, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, chair pose, sink your hips, extend those arms up. Now you guys always have the option here of cactusing the arms if that's better on your shoulders. You can also reach forward if that helps. Just be careful that in reaching forward, you're not leaning forward. So keep that weight in your heels. Can you see your toes? The lower you sit your hips, the more your quads are gonna fire, but that means the more you're using your muscles, right? So keep lifting through the chest. Maybe you can sink a little bit lower. Beautiful. Now take a big deep breath here. Now remember that I'm gonna be on the opposite side of what you're looking at, by which I mean this is my right leg. For you, it's probably your left facing me, right? But plant down firmly through your right foot. Go ahead and bring your hands to heart center to start, and shift right to the right a little bit so you can start to pick up that left foot. From here, you're gonna cross that left ankle above your right knee, figure 4 style. Really notice that I'm pulling my toes towards my kneecaps. This foot is nice and active. If your knee is kind of here, that's totally okay. But really think about using that inner thigh muscle. This is your adductor, wrapping it in to help encourage that knee down, right? Notice too that your right hip wants to stick out and catch your balance. So pull that hip back in line and sit nice and low. Nothing like a core workout, talking and doing a yoga sequence at the same time. Keep lifting through your chest, take a big breath. Now we're gonna do something a little different today. As we start to straighten through that right leg, take your left ankle and just slide it down that light side of your thigh. So now your left ankle is right on top of the right. Take an inhale, extend the arms above the head. You're going to grab your left wrist with your right hand and slowly bend over to the right, getting a nice side body stretch. Sorry for those of you on Zoom, I'm gonna scoot back just as far as you can. You notice I have a pretty big bend, that's my mobility. You can be here totally fine. Roll that left shoulder back, take a big inhale and a big exhale. On your inhale, cactus the arms, plant down once more through your right foot, bring your left thigh up parallel to the floor, flex the toes. Now this is where I'm talking about being careful with your range of motion. Don't crank your hip open. Just find that place. For me, this is basically the structure of my pelvis. This is where my thigh is gonna be most comfortable. From here, take a big inhale. On your exhale, slowly start to open that left thigh up. Step your foot back, find your warrior 2. And you'll notice I landed and my right knee's too far forward. I'm gonna scooch my right foot back. There's my warrior 2. You can always bring your hands to your hips if you're finding yourself getting a little tired. Look over that front thigh, check in with your knee, really firmly planting into that left pinky toe side of your foot. Take a big inhale across the chest. Exhale to hold. Inhale, flip your front palm, reverse your warrior, left hand either to your thigh or your shin, but not your knee. As you reach back, be careful, it's not a back bend. Really keep that integrity here of your pelvis. Pull that core in, big inhale. Exhale, bring 2 hands down to frame your right foot and pause. From here, you're gonna plant down firmly through that right foot. Plant down firmly through the hands. Now bend your knee and pull your right heel so your right knee comes up to your right shoulder. From here, take an inhale. Exhale, bring your right knee to your wrist. Inhale to your shoulder. Exhale to your wrist. Last time, inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale, shoot that right foot back. Those are optional. I know we just did all three, but if you're like, that's not happening, it's okay. Big inhale in your plank. Exhale, chaturanga over to your bellies. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. And exhale, meet me in your Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Take a big full round of breath. We're going to do that again on the other side. Inhale, look forward to your hands. Now again, option one, just step your feet forward, but make sure it's an active forward fold, your weights in your toes. Option two are those three little handstand hops. Again, you're going to wrap the inner elbows in, look forward, and try to bring your knees to your chest. Not heels to your butt, knees to your chest. If you can float, go ahead and float. Take your time, guys. We're going to do 3 rounds of breath. So if you're hanging out in that forward fold, just make sure that you're here, not just kind of like hanging out, right? Big, deep, full breath. I think this is our last one. Everybody at the top of your mat, inhale, flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Feet together to touch, big inhale, chair pose. Now this time we won't hold it for too long. Bring your hands to heart. Plant down through that left foot, cross your right ankle above that left knee, figure four. It's gonna mess with your balance, don't worry about it too much. Keep the hips low, pull that left hip back, heart up, big inhale. On your exhale, just slowly start to slide that right thigh down the left, plant the right ankle so it's right above the left. As you do so, grab your right wrist with your left hand, inhale, side body bend, just enough that you feel a stretch, don't force any mobility here. And on your exhale, cactus your arms, plant down through your left foot, bring that right thigh back up parallel. Again, don't force your mobility, just find a nice external rotation. Take an inhale. On your exhale, slight bend in that front leg, slowly rotate until you can step. Again, wiggle your feet out so you find your warrior two. As you extend the arms, just check over that front middle finger, be wary of that booty sticking out. Pull your pelvis under. Inhale, reverse your warrior. And exhale, 2 hands down to frame your right left foot. Pause again, plant the hands. If you want to skip these, you can, but otherwise, pull your knee to your chest. Bring that knee over to your shoulder. Inhale, exhale to lower. Inhale up, exhale lower. 3rd time, inhale, exhale, inhale it up. Exhale, left foot back. You can always try to keep your foot up to mess with your balance as you lower to your chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, lift your hips, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So that's our sun B. I'm going to go ahead and break it down for us, breath to movement. Don't worry too much about getting it perfect. Don't worry too much about some of the movements being kind of new. Just see what happens. Big open mouth exhale, slide out. Inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. Inhale, look forward to your hands. 1, just step forward. 2, 3 hops. 3, go ahead and pike to the top of the mat. Meet me in your forward fold. If you're in forward fold, you've got 2 whole breaths here to hang out. Everybody meet me at the top of the mat. Inhale, flat back, half lift. Exhale, fold forward, feet touch, chair pose. Inhale. Plant down through your right foot, hands to heart. Exhale, left ankle above your right knee, figure four chair. Inhale, slide that left ankle down. Grab your left with your right hand, gently bend to your right side, body stretch. Exhale, cactus your arms, slowly bring that left thigh up parallel to the floor. Inhale here to stand tall. Exhale, gently, slowly step it back, find your warrior two. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Exhale, 2 hands down to frame your right foot. Now again, pause. Your first option is once more just to do that same knee to shoulder or knee to wrist that we did. I take it back. Your first option is not to do those at all. Do a vinyasa or skip it, meet us in down dog, maybe take 2 breaths in child's pose. Your next option is to do the knee to shoulder or knee to shoulder and then to wrist repetition. The last option is to bend that knee, pull it to your chest. Now bring your knee to the outer arm. If you can get it towards your shoulder above your elbow, you might bend your elbows, take a chaturanga push up. You'll come back up and vinyasa. Up to you guys, pick your preference. If you're doing those drops, you should be doing your second one now. And then your third. Everybody, vinyasa of your preference. Feel free to skip it entirely. Meet me in Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. We'll take a big round of breath. Inhale, look forward to your hands. Don't shift the torso forward, just bend the knees. As you look to your thumbs, again, option 1, just step forward, take 2 big breaths and forward fold. Option 2 are those 3 hops. Option 3, if you can pike to the front of the mat, if you can float to the front of the mat, do so as you see fit. Be honest with your practice today, guys. Feel free to take a breath in child's pose first. Last breath. Inhale, flat back, half lift. Exhale, forward fold, feet together, show you from the front this time, chair pose. Exhale, hands to your heart, plant down through that left foot, cross your right ankle, figure 4 chair, keep the hips low. And slowly slide that right foot down. This time grab the right wrist with the left hand. I switched the side bends, my apologies. Reach that left side. On your exhale, cactus your arms, slowly bring that right thigh up parallel to the floor. Take a big inhale. Exhale, gently bend into that left knee. Slowly step that right foot back. Find your warrior 2. Reach across the chest. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Exhale, 2 hands down to frame your left foot. 1, skip these reps if you're not into them today. 2, plant the hands, knee to shoulder, knee to wrist 3 times. Option 3, bend the knee. Pull it up as high as you can on your arm. Maybe you take a chaturanga push-up. And then your choice, guys, step that foot back. Maybe you let your foot hover, vinyasa of your preference. If you're doing those 3, you should probably be done about now. And if you take that back bend, just be careful that you're not making an up dog cobra hybrid, right? Make sure that you're lifting through that low body. And then meet me in Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Big open mouth exhale. Inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. 1 more time. Exhale. Inhale, look to the top of your mat. Exhale, step or hop your feet forward. Forward fold. If you're taking those 3 hops, take them. You've got 2 more. Last breath. Inhale, flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, feet together, chair pose. Inhale. Exhale, hands to your heart, cross that left ankle above your right knee, figure 4 chair. Inhale, slide that foot down, right hand grabs the left side, body stretch to the right. Exhale, cactus your arms, bring that left thigh up parallel to the floor. Take an inhale here. Exhale, slight bend in that right knee, slowly step the left foot back, find your warrior 2. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Exhale, 2 hands down to frame that right foot. Same thing, option 1, skip it. Option 2, do those pulses. Option 3, maybe you bring that right knee back up. Maybe you take that push up. Meet me back in downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. In 3 big breaths. One more side. Inhale it towards the top of the mat. 1 step forward, forward fold. 2, those 3 hops. 3, you can just rather float or pike to the top of the mat. We'll take 2 more breaths. Last one. If you're not there already, step your feet forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back, half lift. Exhale to fold, feet together, chair pose. Inhale. Plant down through that left foot. Exhale, hands to heart. Cross your right ankle above the left knee. Sink your hips low. Inhale, slide that right foot down. Grab the right wrist with the left hand. Bend to the left. Inhale. Exhale, cactus your arms. Bring that right thigh up parallel to the floor. Keep pulling in through that low belly. Inhale. Exhale, slight bend. Gently, slowly step it back. Even if it's not graceful, right? The point of yoga is not to be perfect. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Exhale, 2 hands down to frame that left foot. Again, go straight to your child's pose. Take a chaturanga vinyasa. Option 2, plant the hands. Do those knee to wrist pulses 3 times. Option 3, bring that knee up as high as you can on the left arm. Look forward. Maybe you take a chaturanga push-up. From here, you'll step that left foot back, vinyasa. If you're in the pulses, you've got 1 more breath. Everybody take your vinyasa or skip it. When you get to down dog, child's pose, take rest. And that child's pose, again, can look like whatever you need your child's pose to look like. If you don't want child's pose, if a seat for you for a moment is better, take that seat. And then just check in here with your breath. Most likely scenario, we picked up your heart rate, which is good. We wanted to warm you up. That's the point of Sun B. But just take a moment here, kind of take stock. How you feeling? Big, deep breaths in and out through your nose. And then as you flutter your eyes open, slowly start to walk yourself to a seat. Now should I take that back? Instead of taking a seat, go ahead and meet me back in your down dog. But maybe you have a blanket handy just in case. When you find that down dog, this time you're just going to bend the knees, look back at your toes, and slowly walk your hands back to your feet. So you're at the back of your mat in a forward fold. And then you'll wiggle your feet out as wide as your mat is wide, heels in, toes out. And we're going to take a yogi squat. But for those of you with knee injuries, you can always sumo wrestler squat it, right? Just chill out here. As you do so, though, be careful that you're not collapsing. Really pull the shoulders back, press the chest forward. Maybe even bring your hands to your heart for a minute and just see, like, can I stay up? Or am I bracing myself here with my arms holding my thighs up? If it's comfortable, you can go ahead and start to sink the hips all the way down. Hands at heart, elbows inside your knees. You might grab your blanket, your towel, fold it up, maybe even kind of roll it up a little bit and then sit on it. That might be comfortable for you, but be careful you're not just like chilling, right? You're still using those elbows to roll the shoulders back, lift the chest. If you're on the balls of your feet, that's okay, but you might be able to just wiggle your feet further apart and keep both heels on the mat. Maybe not. That still requires a decent amount of pelvis or hip mobility, I should say. Also, the shape of your pelvis can sometimes be a limiting factor. So from here, I'm going to take that right hand, maybe do that L-shaped check here just to make sure you got the right one. Press your elbow into your knee, walk your right fingertips to the right, and on your inhale, stretch that left arm up to the ceiling. You have the option here of bending that elbow, flipping the palm to the wall behind you, and reaching on your low back, just like we did in that first thread the needle, maybe grabbing the inner part of your left thigh. I'll turn around so you guys can see what that looks like. And if that feels okay, just be careful that you're not collapsing. You're still rolling the shoulder back. Let's take 2 more big breaths. Now rotate back around. On your exhale, bring both hands back to heart. Lift the chest, drop the tailbone. Nice long spine. And then we'll switch. Take that left arm, gently press it against the left thigh. Walk the fingertips to the left. On your inhale, rotate open. Optional exhale to bend the elbow, reach behind you. Maybe find your inner left thigh. This shoulder for me is kind of tight today, so I'm going to stay here. Notice that your knees want to collapse. It's not the worst case scenario, but do try to roll them back a little bit. Use more of that adductor strength, that inner thigh strength. 3 more big breaths. Last one. Bring both hands back to heart. Inhale, lift the chest. On your exhale, just take a comfortable seat. Trying to extend those legs long in front of you. Whew. If that feels really tight in your hips, bring your feet flat on the floor, hands behind you, and just windshield wiper the knees side to side. From here, take that right leg and stretch it out long so that the right leg is straight on the floor and your left foot is facing, or rather your left toes are pulling back towards your face. In my case, my right foot is facing you guys. Then you're going to take that left ankle and cross it over your right knee so your left foot is flat on the floor. From here, this is your option 1. So for those of you who already feel like this is a lot, stay. If you want, you can grab a towel, a blanket, sit on it. So you'll notice I have it fairly thin here, but this will elevate your pelvis and help tilt it down so that you can sit a little taller. That's an option available to you. If you're feeling all right, you might take this left leg and just toe heel your foot to the right so that your left knee is stacked on top of the right knee. Now again, this might be where you stay. And if your knee is more here, I'll point my toes so you can see. If your knee is more here instead of here, totally fine. If this feels good, you'll take the right leg, first just lean to your right, bend the knee and wrap it towards your left hip. And this is full cow face pose, but again, this is not the place you have to be. Lots of options. If you're here and this top leg is more here, that's totally okay as long as you're not rounding the spine. You can still sit tall. And from here, just bring your hands to your knees for now and notice that you want to roll forward. Let your shoulders roll back. Now, cow face arms, we always add in here. We're going to add them today, but this is typically the place where we try to force mobility. And I really want to encourage you, instead of trying to force yourself to grab your hands, just let your active range of motion put your arms where they're going to end up, even if your fingertips don't touch. So you stay where you are. I'm going to turn around so you can see what I mean. So you'll take that right arm and flip your palm so it faces the wall behind you as you extend the arm out to the side. Bend your elbow and reach up your back. And you'll notice for me, I kind of stop here. You can kind of wiggle a little if you want to wiggle, but then stop. Don't force any mobility. You'll notice my left hand is not moving my right at all. From here, you'll reach that left arm up, flip the palm. No, don't flip the palm. Keep the palm facing forward. Now bend your elbow so it's behind your head and reach. And you'll notice that my fingertips here, not quite touching. If you're here, totally okay, right? But don't let yourself collapse. So what your torso is going to want to do is come here so you can find that mobility. Don't sweat it. Instead, keep the torso long. Press your head back into your elbow and sit tall and breathe. Let's just do 2 more big breaths. Last one. And then gently unwind the arms. Take a moment, just press your fingers into the floor and let your shoulders relax. For some of us, that was a lot, so just take a minute, let those sensations die down. And then as you're ready, lean back, uncross your legs, bring both feet flat on the floor. Plant through those hands. Don't let yourself collapse. Keep the spine tall. Maybe you windshield wiper, if that feels good to your hips. And then we'll switch sides. So this time that left leg is going to go long. You're going to cross that right ankle above your left knee. Now you'll notice my right foot is planted pretty firmly. If you're not quite there, do press through that pinky toe side of your foot and encourage your big toe towards the mat so you're really using your inner thigh muscles and you're not just sinking into your hip flexor. This is option 1. Option 2, cross that right ankle a little bit more so your knees stack. Or ish, right? A little bit of a lift here is okay. If you have that blanket, you can stick it under your knee. And you might stay here. This is your option 2. Option 3, lean to your left. Wiggle that left leg around. Maybe the knees stack. Whew, I need to back out of this one a little bit. Okay. And then same thing, just bring your hands to your knees. Notice that you want to round. Let your shoulders roll back. As you do so, keep pressing down through both of your sits bones. So if you're leaning really far back, you're going to feel like you're rounding. So roll the weight to the front. Really the front of your booty, right? Your sits bones are sort of further up. And then same thing, we're just going to work with your active range of motion. So don't try to force anything. You're going to take that left arm out parallel to your shoulder. Flip your palm so it faces the wall behind you. And then just bend your elbows so you're bringing your left fingertips up your back. And don't force mobility. A little wiggle's okay. Notice that I'm not rounding. I'm still sitting tall. Now the right arm's up. Palm faces forward. Just bend your elbow so that your palm comes to the back of your ribs. Same thing, don't let yourself round, even if that means you don't have your hand as far. Roll the shoulders back, press the head back. So I know that when we do these sorts of arms, typically we're trying to find something to hold on to and pull ourselves into a deeper stretch, especially as a lot of us are kind of more homeward bound. Well, not kind of, we are more homeward bound. Many of us are sitting for longer periods of time or standing still for longer periods of time. Really trying to work into your active range of motion is what's going to help maintain it. Trying to force a deeper stretch because you're trying to get tight could actually strain your ligaments a little bit more, right? So really trying to just give them some warmth, give them that nice stretch. Let's take 2 more big breaths. And then just gently unwind the arms. Again, take a minute, just release the fingertips. I'm really feeling that between my shoulder blades today, so I'm going to just take a moment here, let that sensation sort of relax. And then same thing, lean back, uncross the legs, bring both feet flat, hands behind you, and just windshield wiper. And then from here, you got a couple options. If you just want to go straight to a down dog, go straight to a down dog. If you want to take a chaturanga vinyasa to release that work, go ahead and do so. But meet me in down dog in like the next 2 or 3 breaths. Feel free to take some water along your way as you do so. it to your down dog, just check in with your alignment. Make sure that everything is feeling all right. You can pedal it out a little if you want to. Your hips might be kind of tight. And then as you are ready, take an inhale, extend that right leg long. I'm gonna not extend it all the way because there's a wall behind me and I'm gonna kick it. And on your exhale, bring your right foot outside of your right hand. And of course, if your foot's kind of further behind you, take your hand and just help wiggle that foot further up. Totally okay. I recommend that you stay on the ball of your back foot first. If this feels like too much though, take that back knee. And notice for those of us who are pretty tight in our hips, you really want to rotate out. Don't let yourself push that left hip down. Do feel free to bend the knee and really press down firmly into your right big toe. So you're really hugging your knee to your shoulder. If it feels good to kind of wiggle that back and forth, do feel free. And then as you are feeling all right, go ahead and lower down to that left knee. I recommend untucking the toe. You're welcome to wiggle that right foot forward a bit more if you want some space. And then you got some options. If this feels like it's pretty good right here, stay on fingertips. If you happen to have that blanket or something to support the hands, that might be nice. If you can come to flat palms though, feel free. If you can come to elbows, by all means, do let your chin tuck your spine round. And apologies, we're gonna do a little bit more work, so I'm gonna take off my shirt so you guys can see what this looks like. Because I know with black on the screen, it's kind of hard to tell what I'm doing. But first, just let yourself round. Notice that your knee wants to open up, so keep hugging your knee to your shoulder so you're keeping that integrity of your kneecap, right? Your patella is a bone and it floats. It's the only, if there's two floating bones in your body, it's one of them. So really keeping your big toe pressed just means that your ligaments aren't pulling your kneecap in directions that shouldn't be moving. Now, for those of you who feel like this is already plenty, or maybe you're kind of tired, I recommend you stay here. Just take some big breaths. Notice if you're tensing, let yourself sort of relax. I know that hips opening is not really comfortable for most of us. If you're feeling pretty good, I recommend curling those left toes back under and lifting the knee off the mat. From here, you'll take your right hand. You're going to bring it back behind your ankle. So I'm actually bringing my elbow to my inner thigh, and I'm going to grab the back of my right ankle with my right hand. And for some of you, that might be more here, and that's totally okay. I practice this a lot, so it's, I've got some more mobility here. But when you get that grip on your ankle, try your best to wiggle your shoulder under your thigh, right? Just a little bit at a time. You might kind of end up here, that's totally fine. And that might be plenty. If you get here and you feel like your hip is really pinching, back out a smidge, just breathe. If this feels okay, maybe you can wiggle that shoulder out enough that you can then extend that right arm out parallel-ish to the body. If you do that and it feels okay, maybe the left arm can meet it. This is flying squirrel. If that feels all right, you might stay here and breathe. If that feels pretty good, we've got one more step. So if you're interested in trying a posture called Ekapada Kundanyasana B, or sometimes called hurdler's pose, we're going to give that a shot. We've already done a lot of warm-up. Now again, this is totally optional. I'm going to give you this feel that I always give my students. I'm not trying to set you up for failure. It is hard, but like worst case scenario, you're going to face plant, and really that's always kind of funny, right? So if nothing else, you'll get a good laugh. But don't worry too much about whether or not you can get into the full variation. Just take the steps with me and see where you can get. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see what I'm doing here. So the first thing I'm actually going to do to work into this pose is I'm going to lower back down to my knee. But notice that when you lower that knee, it's pretty far behind you. I'm actually going to wiggle it about 2 inches closer. Now, this time, instead of grabbing my ankle with my right hand, again, my elbow's inside my thigh, I'm going to wiggle my shoulder underneath, but plant my hand just inside of my left foot. And I'll turn around so you can see what I mean. So in lieu of bringing my hand here, I'm going to keep it right here, but I'm going to really hug my elbow underneath my knee. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to wiggle those toes back. I'm going to lean forward. Notice I'm going to bend this left elbow and hug it in and try to pull my heel up off the mat. And then I'm just going to put that foot back down. And if you're like, oh, my hip, just take a minute, straighten that front leg. Cool? So if that feels like it's already a lot, just see if you can hang out there with your heel pulled up and breathe. 3 big breaths. If that feels okay, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to plant the hands. You're going to lean forward, pull that heel to your rear end. But then as you continue to lean forward, bend the elbow, straighten that back leg, Maybe you can straighten both legs and pick up your feet. Maybe you just stay here. Maybe you try to pick yourself up and you face plant. I face planted many times before I could lift my feet, right? And if you're not quite getting your feet off the floor, even trying is getting you that same activation. Also helpful to think about your cat pose, right? So instead of letting yourself collapse, really lifting up is just gonna help you engage that core. So if you're giving it a shot, again, plant those hands firmly, hug your shoulder as much under your thigh as you can, start to wrap that left elbow in as you lean forward, just start to try to pick up those right big toes. As you lean, look in front of you, you can put your torso on your left elbow if you want to, maybe you stretch both legs long. And for everybody who's been very patiently staying here in your lizard pose, go ahead and come back up to your palms. If you gave that hurdler's pose, Ekapada Kundanyasana be a shot, go ahead and let it go. Maybe you can come back to your palms, maybe you sort of crumpled. But then curl those left toes, lift that left knee, step your right foot back. And if you want a vinyasa, take your vinyasa. If not, down dog. And again, big open mouth, exhale, side out. Inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. Inhale the left leg long. Exhale, left foot outside of your left hand. Now same thing, if you don't quite get your foot all the way, take your hand, wiggle your foot forward. As we did last time, can you first just stay on your fingertips or your palms, maybe on a support. Press that right hip down, but don't lower down to your right knee yet. Instead, keep a slight bend. And the reason for this being, we're just trying to teach your body that it can do this length in this basic shape. So even this very small seeming motion, right? This is it's an active stretch, but it's not a really intensely active stretch. This is already prepping us for that final posture that some of us attempted, some of you might have looked at it and been like, yeah, maybe someday. Maybe you were like, no, never. But I never thought I was gonna be able to do it, and I can. So you never know. All right, go ahead and lower down to that back knee. If that's hard on your knee, take that blanket, put it underneath you to give yourself some support. Untuck toes. And same thing, notice that your left knee wants to rotate open. Don't let it. Hug it to your shoulder, plug into your left big toe. And then you got some options. If staying on fingertips is plenty, stay on your fingertips. If that feels okay, maybe you can come to palms. Maybe you can come to forearms. Do let your chin tuck, your shoulders around. And breathe. Nice and simple. Now again, if that feels like plenty, stay here. And I know we're holding it for a long time, but trust me, getting into this adductor area, this inner thigh area, getting into your outer hip, especially for those of us who are working from home on laptops, super important just to keep the body nice and stretched out, nice and safe. If you want to come in a little deeper, I'll scooch over so y'all can see me. Again, you'll curl those back toes, lift the back knee. Keep your hands shoulders distance. I'm just opening it up so you can see what I'm doing. And then from here, left hand, elbows inside your left thigh. Bend that elbow, pull it back, and try to grab your left ankle with your left hand. And if you're more here, that's totally fine, but try to kind of wiggle a little lower. Again, I do this a lot, so I've got a lot of practice. Maybe that's plenty. Maybe you stay here and breathe. Maybe you stretch that left arm out long. If that feels okay, maybe the right arm meets it, trying out your flying squirrel. Notice you want to rotate open. Don't let yourself drop that right hip. Again, if that feels okay, you want to try to do something a little bit more difficult. Bring that left hand back inside your left foot. I'm going to toe heel over so I've got the mat under both hands here. Well, that's not going to work. Same thing, lower down to that right knee again. But I recommend wiggling it in about 2 inches closer to the front of your mat. You're going to hug your elbows in. And again, try to bring your shoulder under your thigh, but keep the hand outside of your foot. Then wrap that right elbow in, start to bend. Wiggle your left foot back, bend the knee, pull your heel to your bum, and just start on that back knee. Maybe you lower it about here, and then try to lift yourself back up, or kind of splat. If that's still a lot, straighten that front leg, flex the toes, just take a big breath. And then I'll show you from the side. If you want to give it a shot again, I'm going to bring my hand a little bit closer. My left hand's inside my left foot. My right hand's about shoulders distance apart, so about 6 to 8 inches depending on how wide your shoulders are. Hug the elbows in. Wiggle that left shoulder underneath your left knee. From here, wiggle that left foot back. Point your toes back. Bend your elbows. You can rest your chest or your rib cage on that right elbow if it helps. Maybe you curl the back toes, lift the back knee. Maybe you lean forward and try to lift that back leg. Maybe you can stretch the front leg long. Maybe you just like face plant and collapse. That's okay. Without the face plants, how do you know, right? And you're really close to the floor, so if you face plant, meh. Kayleigh, Naaman, yoga teacher, welcomes face plants. Let's just do one more round of whatever you're working on. Again, if you're still in lizard, I know you've been there for a bit, so just take another big breath. And everybody, if you're in a lizard variation, if you are doing that flying squirrel variation, come back up to your palms, back to your fingertips. If you have ended up in some sort of crumpled pile of ekapada excellenceness on your mat, by all means, just meet me in down dog. If you all want to take a vinyasa, feel free to step that left foot back to your right. Maybe you vinyasa, maybe you just meet me in down dog. Big full breath, guys. In fact, big open mouth exhale, side out. Inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. Without shifting the torso forward, just bend the knees. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, lower down to your knees. Come to a seat in the center of your mat. And we'll start the feet flat. If your hips are feeling a little tight, they might be. Hands behind you. Again, tall torso. And just let it release. Totally in cool down mode now. So from here, go ahead and keep those feet flat. I'm going to wiggle my hips a little closer to my heels. If you want some core, you can just very slowly reach the hands forward and take your time rolling back. If you're good, hands to the backs of your thighs and just slowly roll down. If you're doing your core, you might kind of hang out here and breathe. But keep holding that belly. Wherever you guys want to go, I'm going to come down. We'll do just one round of bridge. So I'm going to keep my feet flat. I'm going to wiggle my hips towards my heels. My feet are hips distance apart, so they're still about that 6 inches apart. Plugging out into my big toes. Now, if you want to do a bridge or wheel instead of bridge, you can. Hands by your sides, gazes at the ceiling. Make sure your knees stay separated. Tuck that pelvis under just for a moment so your low back presses towards or into the mat. And then lift the hips up off the floor. If it feels good, wiggle the shoulder blades in a little bit closer. If it feels good, you can wiggle the hands underneath your tailbone, interlace your fingers, and press the pinky side parts of your hands into the floor. And don't look to the side like I am, it's just not great for your neck. If that's hard to do, just keep the hands separated. If you want to, you can plug into the big toes and squeeze your glutes just a little bit to try to lift your hips a little bit higher. If you want that extra stretch, let's take 2 more big breaths. Keep pressing into your big toes. Don't let your knees knock out. And slowly tuck the pelvis back under. Release any grips. Lower the low back to the mat. Wiggle your feet mats distance apart. Let your knees knock in to support themselves. Take a big breath. And as it feels good, windshield wiper the knee side to side. From here, slowly bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Keep your right knee in. Extend the left leg out long. Left heel to the floor. If you can't quite get your heel on the mat, you're welcome to keep a little bit of a hover here, but really trying to keep the foot flat instead if that's where you're at. Pull the right knee to the right shoulder. Inhale. Exhale, bring the right leg across the body to the left. If your toe's not quite on the mat, that's totally okay. If you're hovering, if that's hard on your low back, stack your knees instead. Arms can come parallel to or cactus to your shoulders. You can always keep your left hand on your right thigh. And then just make sure that the right shoulder stays grounded on the mat. You're not letting yourself teeter-totter. Let's take a big round of breath. Last one. And slowly come back to center. Bring both of your knees in. Reset. This time extend the right leg out long. Right heel to the mat. Same thing. You can kind of keep your foot flat, your leg long if that's better support for your low back before we twist. Pull the left knee to the left shoulder. Inhale. Exhale the left leg across the body to the right. Now again, if you're really teeter-tottering, you feel like this isn't very stable, stack your knees. Otherwise, you might keep your left hand there. Your right hand there, you might bring your arms parallel to or cactus by your shoulders. Notice that my left shoulder is not hovering. I'm pressing it into the floor, even as my right hand encourages my left thigh down. Just a little bit more. If looking over your shoulder hurts your neck, look at the ceiling. Big breaths. Let's take 2. Come back to center on your next inhale. Bring both knees in. Optional if you would like to come into a tight little yogi hug by bringing the knees into your chest, wrapping the elbows around your shins, grabbing opposite elbow if you can. Maybe you bring your forehead to your knees. And then release. Start to find your savasana, your final resting shape. Stretching those heels out long. You can always bring the hands to your stomach. Maybe you bring one to the stomach, one to the heart. Maybe the arms are by your sides. Arms above the head is okay, but it might pick up your heart rate, so just be mindful. And then as you find that shape, wiggle your shoulder blades in a bit closer, let your chin tuck to your throat. If you're pregnant or expecting and you prefer to lie on your side or end in a seat, totally fine. But with those eyes closed, everybody just big open mouth exhale, sigh out all of your air. And inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. And let yourself return to your natural breathing pattern, whatever that looks like. Just take a moment to take stock. Find some gratitude for taking time for yourself to try to create a space of mindfulness, maybe for playfulness. Maybe you found out that you can do something you didn't expect today. Maybe you found something that you're interested in trying again. Before I leave you, I'd like to end with a brief quote. This is from Sylvia Plath. I took a deep breath and listened to the old brag of my heart. I am, I am, I am. Namaste, yogis.